Okay, so here's a special edition of the Five Star Zone. I'm your host, Rico Beard. Jonathan Smith out as head coach at Michigan State. Jonathan Smith had a 9-15 overall record at MSU. Now, I'm not going to do the whole vacated wins things. We all saw the wins that he had. Okay, I don't think it was his fault. Jonathan Smith came to Michigan State, and I do believe that Jonathan Smith was promised a lot more resources than what he had. He did not get them, and he had two underwhelming seasons. 5-7 the first year. I think a lot of Spartan fans were willing to see, okay, let's see what happens year two with Aiden Childs, and we'll get this thing back. You had a favorable schedule where you didn't have to play many of the big boys in the Big Ten. You only had to play the University of Michigan and Penn State. At the time, you thought that Penn State was good, but then Penn State fired their coach, so you thought, okay, that's a winnable game. But what happened this season was an utter catastrophe, and he lost faith with the fans. And I think that a lot of this goes back to when he first got to MSU, and it was kind of an isolation thing. He was different, he was weird, and he was a West Coast guy, but he never really embraced what Michigan State was. He didn't really link up and talk to people outside of his coaching staff. So not a lot of people knew who he was except for the players and his staff. But it was like, okay, well, if you win, we really don't care what you're going to do. Just go out and win. And after 5-7, look, it was disappointing how you lost the final game his first year against Rutgers, had a chance to go to bowl game. They got blown out at home on senior day. Okay, now we fast forward to this season. Hot start, you jump out, you're 3-0. Okay, that 3-0, all you have to do is win 3 games in the Big Ten, and you're going to be going to a bowl game. It'll be an improvement. We keep moving on. But then what happened was this. You start losing, and then you start losing more, and you start losing more, and you lost confidence, and you lost the faith in the fan base. And it looks like you lost faith with Jay Batt, who was the new athletic director. Remember, Alan Haller hired Jonathan Smith, not Jay Batt. So Batt was kind of looking back in the background, literally and figuratively, because Batt would sit in the back of every press conference, which if I'm Jonathan Smith, would piss me the F off. It's like, dude, either you step up and take some of these bullets or don't show up, okay? You're making me very uncomfortable, but I digress. Smith had opportunities. He had opportunities to win some games. And if you really think about it, it was bad clock management, bad coaching decisions, just bad everything. Games against Minnesota, winnable game. You're winning it, and you found a way to lose it in overtime. And yeah, the referees screwed you over, but you know what? You shouldn't have let it get there in the first place. And then you look at the Iowa game. You kicked the ball to Weege. Not once, not twice, but 3 times, including near the end of the game. Like, he took one to the house. Like, why would you even kick anything? Just take the ball and punt it out of bounds. You'd be better off just going for it, because Iowa was 1 for 10 for third downs. You would have gotten the ball back, but you found a way to lose that game. And then in the end, you win the final game at Fort Field against Maryland. Just think about it. You win those 2 games. You win that Maryland game. You win that one. And guess what? You're probably coming back to Fort Field to play in yet another game, but you didn't. And I think, like I said, at that point, the fans were done. I'm sitting in the crowd, and people were conflicted because you wanted to root for the green and white, but you also knew if State wins, could they possibly keep him? We were all in limbo, including Jonathan Smith. At the end of the game, Michigan State wins 38-28. The press conference was weird because he almost looked like he was campaigning for his job. I asked him a question about, well, if you keep your job, what do you have to say about the fans for the future? And he was like, man, I got a lot of bright young players, and you could almost tell, like, if you just give me another chance, I really want to do something with this. Well, the next day, Sunday, we all found out that he got fired, and they're going to move on. So who's going to be the next coach? There was always a rumor out there. It was one guy. Your name kept coming up, and it was the people just like, eh. And then the rumor started getting a little more solid, almost like Jell-O. And then it was like, is Michigan State about to hire Pat Fitzgerald? Now, look, at the time I'm taping this, he has not officially been named, but the Free Press has gone out there on record. I've talked to many sources, and they've all said, yeah, Michigan State and Pat Fitzgerald have come up with a deal. He's going to be the next head coach, which tells me one thing. Jay Batt worked in silence. Jay Batt was already planning this to happen because you don't fire your coach and immediately have another coach ready to go just that quick. And here's the thing. Here's how fast it's going to happen. If it is Pat Fitzgerald, he's going to be introduced at the basketball game when Michigan State takes on Iowa on Tuesday night. They're going to bring him out to the crowd and let him be cheered. But you knew Jonathan Smith was done because even at Ford Field, whenever his photo would get up, you put him on the Jumbotron, he was getting booed. It was Fire Smith chants throughout the game. So he was done. Now, what does Pat Fitzgerald bring that Jonathan Smith doesn't? Well, personality. He's a rah-rah coach. We've seen what he did at Northwestern. But let's get past the fact that it's not Jonathan Smith, because I think with a lot of people, it was anybody but Jonathan Smith because he just had that bland rice cake, white milk personality. He didn't inspire folks outside of his locker room. You didn't feel good. You weren't going to renew your season tickets. Okay. The crowd at Ford Field looked worse than the high school football championship crowds. And I'm talking about the crowds of like Division 7 and Division 8 from little towns, okay? That place was empty. It was an embarrassment for MSU, plain and simple. But now he's gone. He had a 9-15 overall record. He won 4 Big Ten games. You bring in Pat Fitzgerald, who's got fired from Northwestern. His final 2 seasons at Northwestern were not stellar. They were 3-9 and 1-11. He went 4-20 in his final 2 years at Northwestern. Okay, well, you'll be like, well, he won the Big Ten. He played in the Big Ten championship game. He played in the Big Ten West, folks. Okay. Look, I don't know if this is going to be an upgrade or not, but I'm just saying, let's pump the brakes and claiming this guy the savior. He played in the Big Ten West, which is basically empty calories of the Big Ten. You didn't have to go up against the Ohio State, the Michigans, and the Penn States. And heck, even the Michigan States at that time. You didn't. You went up against the Minnesotas and you went up against just the bottom feeding teams. Okay. And you beat them. This is back when this is back when, Illinois was bad. This is back when Purdue was bad. This is back when all of these teams just weren't that good, and they feasted off of them. So just something to keep in mind. He was 110 and 101 in his 17 years at Northwestern. He was 65 and 75 in his Big Ten record. He went to 10 bowl games. I'll give him that. He won 2 Big Ten West titles. Yes, he did. And he also, one of them was during COVID season. Say what you want. Do you count COVID or not? They were 7-2 in that year. And I believe he was also like the coach of the year that year. But he's out of the game for the last 3 years because of a hazing incident that later they found out he had nothing to do with. Okay. But he's been gone. Think about what college football has gone through just since COVID to now. COVID, we were playing in front of empty stadiums. You were literally making up your schedule on the fly. Then all of a sudden we introduced, okay, maybe we should pay players. You had the transfer portals really starting to take off. And then there was NIL packages. He didn't experience really any of this stuff took off right as he was leaving. Now, granted, if you get a chance, you could watch the interview that he did. And in this interview, he was talking with Reese Davis and I think Pete Thamel. And he was talking about how for the last 3 years, he took a PhD program in college football. And the last 3 years, he really learned a lot. Now, after watching that, I feel a little bit better if this hire takes place. And like I said, when I'm taping this, it hasn't been made official. But from what it sounds like, this will be official. He'll be brought out to the crowd, to the Breslin Center crowd on Tuesday night. I look at this and I'm wondering, okay, he really looks like he understands. He's got the knowledge that college football has changed. He talked about how it's basically a year-to-year type of team, and you don't really get a chance for the continuity to build because your players could leave. But he did talk about, he wanted to. First of all, one of the things he said, he wanted to get the local regional talent. So I guess you're going to go back to getting more Midwest talent. Really tapping into the state of Ohio, getting those guys that can't go to the Ohio State University and it's kind of what D'Antonio did. By the way, D'Antonio and Izzo sounds like they're going to bless this hire. I guess I'm saying this. If you can get the talent in, he's also talking about, okay, but you're going to have to pay them to play because, that's just the nature of the game. But if you're paying them, if you're doing well, you're going to really make some money. And if you're making that much money, then you're probably going to be one of these Sunday players. So it's like, okay, he gets it. Also states that, look, I'm not going to overpay for somebody who's not worth it. It may tick off the fan base. It may tick off people on social media, but I'm not going to overpay for talent who I just not getting it done. Sounds good. Saying that this is a transactional type of conference and transactional league. Yeah, that's what it is. How everything is just basically a 1 year type of setup. Yeah, that's what it is. He talks a good game. But as you all know, there's a difference between theoretical and actually applied science and actually applying what you've learned. Sometimes when you're looking at it on paper, it seems so simple, but when you have to apply it in the real world, it's not that simple. What's going to happen when that star running back, that star receiver, that star quarterback walks in there and says, hey, this isn't happening, I'm making this, and blah, blah, blah. How does he adjust to that? Because this is something he never had to deal with. We're going to see. You've already had one player, Mekhi Frazier, Michigan State running back, saying he's going to hit the portal. You've had some recruits saying, I'm committed, but I need to see what's going to happen. So I'm going to open up my commitment. You had a couple have already just flat out decommitted. You've had some saying they're going to stick around and stay. You've had some high school coaches who are a little apprehensive of this coach, of Pat Fitzgerald. I don't think that right now, if you can retain Nick Marsh, I guess if you can retain Jordan Hall and either Milivojevic, there we go, or Aiden Childs, one of those guys as your quarterback, I think you'll have a start. But to me, I'm going to learn more about Fitzgerald. Can you keep the better players here? Can you develop those players? And really, what are you going to do with the recruits? What are you going to do? The biggest thing is the portal window opens, I think, January 2nd through the 15th. What are you going to do there? That's going to tell me more about next season than I think anything else will, because if you don't walk in there and you don't pick up at least 4 offensive linemen and 4 defensive linemen, everything else is gravy. But if you can't add to the offensive and defensive line, this thing is just going to be wash, rinse, repeat. And from what I've been told, I do believe that you're going to find out that Michigan State's going to get a gigantic boost financially from a donor, from a booster coming up. It may even be as soon as this week. How do you go out there, use your resources? Because, Pat Fitzgerald talked about the resources of, and how you have to apply them now, and how do you have to, basically build teams financially. How do you do that? Because there's only one portal. After the portal closes, you'll have spring practice, and we'll know what this team is after spring practice. We'll know if this team will be able to compete. To me, your floor is 6-6. I don't think Spartan fans can stomach another below par season, and it's not your fault, but this is what you inherited. So you better be ready for this. You better be ready for Spartan fans, because a lot of people are happy and a lot of people are like, that's it. This is the best that we could do. Bat went out there, and Bat's name is on this. And if this blows up, I think it's going to blow up in Bat's face as well. If it works, we always can joke on the show. If this works, he's Batman. If he doesn't work, he's Bateman from those State Farm commercials. We got to wait and see. But the transfer portal window is going to tell me how good Coach Fitz will be at Michigan State. Look, he wanted back into the game. And he was very desperate to get back into the game, because we found out that he kind of got railroaded by Northwestern. Now, once he left, Northwestern got pretty good. They made 2 bowl games out of the 3 years he was gone. Those were his players. Can he do that? And I guess, will he be allowed the patience of fans to actually build it up? And as I told you, look, if you're not making a bowl game, if you're not, and it's sad to say, can you go freaking 6-6? Is that asking too much now? And I don't think it is, because if you really think about it, most of your non-conference games are gimmies. Now, next year you do have a non-conference game against Notre Dame, which is not a gimme. You'll probably lose that. But honestly, if you think about it, the one I'm more concerned about is Toledo and Jason Candle. Not a pushover team, Toledo. Hopefully, Michigan State will get their ducks in a row. Hopefully this will work out, because I think Spartan fans are just kind of sick and tired of the losing, realizing it was 10 years ago where you were sitting on top of the world, 10 years ago where you were one of the 4 teams, back when it was only 4 teams that made the college football playoffs. You were one of those teams. It was 10 years ago, and since then, it ain't looked good. We went to a bowl game 2 other times, I think, but that was about it. 3 times. 2017 and then 2021, and I think it was D'Antonio's last game, the Pinstripe Bowl as well. You got to do better. I don't know. Did Tucker go to a second game or not? He may have, but I'm not talking about Mel Tucker. We got to see what happens. He's going to come in here. Is he a major upgrade from what you left off with? Personality-wise, yes. Win-wise, not really. It's kind of the same. So he's going to win the press conference because, let's face it, he's going to show some emotion. So that's going to win over Spartan fans. For me, show me what you can do when it comes time to hit that portal. Because see, that's the other problem that I have. Because he's not coming from a team, he can't even bring players with him. You know, Lane Kiffin, like it or not, is going to be bringing some Ole Miss players with him to LSU. It just happens that way. He's been out of the game for 3 years, so he really can't tap and tell some of his better players, hey, follow me to this program and I'll help you win more games, just in a different color. So does he have the juice to draw players in from the portal? Does he have the juice to hit the recruiting trails late and try to steal some guys? I don't see it that way. I don't think he's the big splash when it comes to players. I think the media likes him. I think people like him because he's fun to hang around with. I think he tells great stories. But can that translate into him bringing in NFL type of players? Because that's what's been missing at Michigan State for a long time. It's just NFL type players, guys. And by that, I mean, guys you see on Saturday and you're like, you know what? This guy will play on Sunday. Case in point, you look at the skill position that you had, whether it was Jalen Naylor, Jalen Reed, or Kenneth Walker, and you're like, okay, all of those guys in the league, all of those guys are playing. You don't have that right now. Can you bring those types of guys in here, especially if you can get guys on either the offensive or defensive line? Because if you can win that battle, that's when Michigan State was in their heyday. I've said it before and I'll say it again. D'Antonio had it humming. He had guys going to the league, whether they're offensive linemen, whether they're defensive linemen, and that those teams really won between that 2013-2015 season. Pat Fitzgerald, is he going to get that? What's that contract going to look like? I don't know, but I pray to God there's no big buyout. Tie the buyout to his wins and losses. No 10-year deals. Just keep this thing. I would start with a prove it. If it were me, and my money, prove it, 3-year deal. Okay? 3 years, come in here, show me what you got. And the buyout's going to be low enough that if I got to pull the plug in year 2, it's not going to hurt us. We can move on. Hopefully they moved away from the ridiculous contracts where a coach can just say, yeah, pay me my $30 million right now. I don't want to see that happening, and hopefully it won't happen again. But we'll wait and see. But, yeah, I think that this Fitzgerald thing is going to happen. It hasn't happened officially by taping this, but I think it'll happen relatively quickly because Bat has been moving extremely fast on Sunday. If it is, he'll be introduced to the media and then probably introduced to the crowd on a Tuesday at the Breslin Center. If not then I guess they'll wait till Saturday when the Michigan State plays Duke. But that's what's happening. So Jonathan Smith out. He had a 9-15 record. And let's face it, I don't think many people were going to be renewing their season tickets. Now, Fitzgerald coming in, as I stated, a lot of people in the media like him. You win some games, and I think the fans will like you. They've seen what you could do at Northwestern, because the big thing, before I leave, I guess the thing that a lot of people like about him is because he was almost D'Antonio-like. He was able to take lesser talent, and he had restrictions playing at Northwestern. He was able to flip that into guys that actually can play well, and he actually had a couple people who would make the NFL. Can he do that at Michigan State? Will he be allowed to do that at Michigan State? Because, like I said, back at Northwestern, he had time to get those players and really develop them. Now, the clock is sped up. You got to develop them, and they got to be ready to go in a year, 2 at the most. After that, either they're going to leave or you overdevelop them, and now you got to beg them to stay. This is all new to him. This is all new to us. We're going to wait to see what happens. But, yeah, he did a lot with little at Northwestern. Is that what is that going to be his way to go, or is he going to buy players? And is he going to go the Kirk Cignetti route of, hey, telling the boosters, give me the money and I'll go out and get the players and we'll win games instantly? Cignetti ruined things for everybody. Cignetti had people believing that you can do this right off the rip. We'll see what happens. But Michigan State, new head coach, Pat Fitzgerald. It'll be official probably by the time this podcast hits the air, but as of now, it's not. But all things lead to that happening. I'm confident enough to say he will be the next head coach of Michigan State. Jonathan Smith out, Pat Fitzgerald in. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you abreast, Spartan fans, of what happens next. But for now, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Rico Beard. You're listening to a special 5-Star Zone because of what happened at Michigan State, firing and hiring a new coach on Sunday. I'll see you later.